Well, hello everybody, and welcome to today's webinar, Making a Difference, Peer Tutoring Behind Bars. Today's webinar is generously sponsored by ICEV, and today we have Maggie McGill, who's going to share a few words with us. Maggie?
All righty, let me get some things going here on my screen. Okay, everybody hopefully can see that. So welcome everybody. My name is Maggie McGill. I am an ICEV territory manager with CEV Multimedia, and our platform is actually called ICEV Online. So I'm just going to take about 5 minutes just to kind of let you know what we're all about and promote our upcoming summer conference. So as I switch to this next slide, ICEV provides 7 different CTE subject area curriculum sites. So we are a web-based product, and there is a teacher license and student licenses, and then digital vouchers if you're interested in having your students take an industry certification exam. But these are the 7 different curriculum sites that we offer. What's really unique about ICEV is that you actually get all of the courses inside of each of these content areas. So it really is a ton of content for teachers to use with their students. In addition to that, you also get the certifications that align to that CTE subject area. Now, I have quite a few corrections accounts in California. They are unique to work with and sometimes challenging, but because our content, again, is provided in a safe and secure platform, it's been very well received in corrections. So these certifications are also very popular in corrections. I do have some sites that, even at the juvenile level, take a week off a sentence of someone who's completed a certification. So you can see we have a ton of certifications available. These are written by our industry partners, and then the students take the actual exam through our platform. So there's quite a bit to choose from, in addition to these regular CTE courses that we have within each of these content areas. So the big thing I want to really tell you about today is that we're having our 2nd annual CTE Inspired Conference, which is July 27th through the 29th. And we know sometimes people can't make it on those days, so we're actually doing a second repeat of that on August 9th and 11th. This conference is free to participate in. I think we are having, well, it says 80 sessions. I think we have 75 confirmed as of today. We are going to have all different strands of sessions. One, of course, will be in correctional education. There will be one also on adult education. Again, it is free. We are having the most wonderful keynote speakers each day. So I've done some research on Temple Grandin, so I'm very excited about that. I actually just watched the movie about her. Incredible story. Really looking forward to that. I don't know if you all know who Damon John is, but he is from Shark Tank, and he is also one of our speakers. And I haven't dived into yet Angela Duckworth, but I'm going to. So this is definitely something you all will not want to miss. I don't know if you know who Atlo is, but they provide secure computer labs for correctional facilities. So they will actually be a virtual exhibitor at our booth, and I think they'll be doing some kind of session as well. So we are really looking forward to this. Would love to see all of you get registered. Remember, it's free. Even if you can't be there on those actual days, your registration will allow you to view the recorded content after. And so you can see that we are doing a correctional education strand. And so these are the areas that we're going to be focusing on. So we're very excited for this. We did this last year for the very first time, a conference. Of course, it was virtual. It was in July last year, I think, and we had 10,000 attendees, and I think we put it together in about 2 months. So it was a huge accomplishment and success on our end. And so this year, it's just going to be a really great event. And we're actually expecting 30,000 attendees this year. So we would love you all to participate. You have my contact information. I'm more than happy to talk to any of you about correctional education and kind of give you some examples of what I'm doing here in California. I think the unique part about our platform is, yes, it's web-based, but we do have a instructional materials side of our platform that is also paper-based. So you can do quite a bit in the platform, even not in front of a computer and doing, activities and working through the content and the courses online. So that's just a little bit about us. I really appreciate you guys giving me the time to talk about our conference, and we are very happy to support all of you. So I think that's it. Thanks, everyone.
Maggie, thank you so much, and thank you for your sponsorship of today's webinar. We wouldn't be able to put these on if it wasn't for partners like you. So we're grateful, and thank you very much. We look forward to your conference coming up. I'm going to register right after the webinar.
Great. Awesome. Thanks.
You're welcome. Okay, so today our presenter is Kim Rausch. She is the program coordinator of the Penn State Muncie Peer Tutoring Program. Please say hello and welcome her in the chat box. You can submit any questions that you have regarding her presentation in the Q&A section. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kim. Thank you.
Thanks, James. Thanks, Maggie. That does sound like an excellent conference, some excellent keynote speakers. So welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining me this afternoon. I will probably only stay on camera for a few minutes just to ensure good viewing for everyone. My internet's not always the greatest. So I recognize some of the names of the participants, of people who actually joined this session when we did it for the conference last year. Just going to preface this by saying that this is basically the same presentation. Obviously, there will be some updates based on our COVID situation, but the majority of the information will be the same. So with that said, today I plan to discuss the Penn State Muncie Tutoring Program, which is a collaboration between Penn State's Career Pathways Program, Career and Family Pathways Adult Education Program, which is a part of the Institute for the Study of Adult Literacy, and SCI Muncie, which is one of Pennsylvania's 2 female correctional facilities. My goal is to provide you with an overview of the development and implementation of the program, and I'll also share some of the challenges and successes that we've experienced. So we're going to start out with just a brief behind the scenes look at the negotiations to get this program up and running, and move into a more in-depth look at the actual implementation of the program. So I will stop my video now and just want to take a few minutes to give a shout out to a few individuals who've been very vital to the tutoring program. One has been Mr. Mike Vail, who is the Director of Career and Family Pathways at the Institute. Also Carol Clymer, who's the co-director of the Institute for the Study of Adult Literacy, and that's the grant holder for the Career Pathways program. Dr. Karen Oliver Ryder, who's the principal at SCI Muncie, and Mrs. Pickett, the guidance counselor at SCI Muncie. They are just part of the core team that has really been instrumental in the success of this program. But another really key component to the success has been the support and collaboration of the teachers in the education building and the vocational programs at SCI Muncie. They've given me the opportunity to speak in their classrooms. They have referred students to me. They have worked with me to make sure that we're providing appropriate instructional materials. And then finally, none of this would exist if we didn't have the grant opportunity from the Pennsylvania Department of Education and the division of in the Division of Adult Education. So that has been what's made this program able to exist. So thank you to everyone. Just a tiny bit of housekeeping. The remainder of contact information will be at the end of the slideshow. And my goal is to set aside time for questions. And yes, the PowerPoint will be available on COABE's website within a couple of days. So as I mentioned, this is a general overview of what I plan to share with you today. We'll very briefly look at behind the scenes in the development, and then I'll dig in a little bit deeper to the implementation, the challenges and successes, and plan to leave time for questions for you. So behind the scenes is kind of two parts. I'll give you just a very little bit of information about SCI Muncie, and then some of the collaboration and the research that was done in order to get this program up and running. SCI Muncie is one of the two state female correctional institutes in Pennsylvania. The numbers are a little bit less than 1,400 now, but that's on an average day before our world changed. And SCI Muncie has a really robust set of educational and occupational programs. So they do the adult basic ed, they do the Commonwealth secondary, the GED and business education. They also have quite a few vocational programs, including a machine class, restaurant trades, cosmetology, building and trades, OSHA training, flagging. They have a second chance Pell Grant with Bloomsburg University. They do correspondence courses for higher education. So that basically the reason we give you that background is to show that SCI Muncie is really open to educational opportunities. So that kind of opened the door and gave us the opportunity to work with them with this tutoring program. And prior to my involvement, Penn State, the Career Pathways program, had some previous collaborations with Muncie, in that some staff had done a foundational skills training. And then we also did mock interviews for a career fair there. So that's some of the foundational stuff that went on. There was research done, there was networking done, a lot of interactions with those three agencies to pull it all together. And the reason I don't go into great detail is because that was all before I came on the scene. So the program development obviously started with the opportunity, the grant funding that we had the opportunity to receive, and that the grant was written and the research was done. Then laying that groundwork with the relationships and explaining the program and the challenges that are inevitably encountered when you're working with three pretty large agencies. We're talking about Penn State University, the Pennsylvania Department of Education, and then the Department of Corrections. So there were certainly some challenges, some red tape to deal with to coordinate the program to be able to make it suitable for all three agencies. Through it all, the keys to success, or the main key to success for this program, has most definitely been relationships. And as we start with the importance of relationships, I always share this quote. This quote is hanging in the classroom, on the classroom walls in the tutoring program. We go over this quote when I do a tutor training. And I wanted to start out with it here and share it with you. Why this quote? That's the exact question I ask tutors when we do the tutor training for this peer program. And the discussion that comes about is always eye-opening. It's interesting, it's insightful, and honestly, it's often eye-watering. And just to lay it out there and more, well, I'm not on camera, so you probably won't, but I do a lot of that with this program. You may even get to hear it in my voice today as I go through some of the things with this program that have just been absolutely incredible. And I saw from the chat that quite a few of you are in corrections facilities. So the experience that you have, see, when I came into this program, I did not have much experience working in corrections. I had done some tutor trainings in a correctional facility, but I had never worked full-time or almost full-time in a correctional facility. So what you already know about the programs is going to be very instrumental in understanding the potential for bringing a program like this into your facility. But bottom line, the success and growth of this program, in my opinion, stems from us being able to implement this quote. Participants, and when I say participants, I mean both tutors and learners, know that someone cares. And it's very clear that someone cares by the simple fact that this program came into existence. The persistence of Mike, Karen, and many, many others made it obvious that people care. I am going to take a chance and share my video. I just feel very weird talking to a blank screen, basically. So James, if you can let me know if the internet does really seem to start lagging, I'll turn my video back off.
Yep, so far so good.
So, okay, thank you. Once I got into the facility, going down through the list of the program implementation, having the collaboration and the support of the Department of Corrections staff was vital. And because I had already met the guidance counselor and the principal, I knew I had their support. I met them in the interview process. And we had a couple of meetings before the program actually started. So I felt strong with that relationship. And I very quickly had the opportunity to build relationships with the instructional and vocational staff. And that is all so key in the success of a program like this. My background prior to this position gave me the working knowledge of what adult learners need. And I was able to support what we were able to turn into an environment that was really strength-based and perceived, in the words of the inmates, as safe by the majority of the participants. It took me a little while, but I eventually also learned that it was really important for all of the participants to understand that everyone involved in the program was a volunteer. That turned out to be pretty vital to make sure we let tutors and learners both know that. So how does it work? What's the nuts and the bolts of how did we get it started, and how is the relationship piece of this so important? When I first got on site, which I was able to do shortly after the new year in 2019, I started out with individual interviews with everyone who's interested in the program. So that means, I have a standard set of questions that I ask based on whether the individual is interested in being a tutor or a learner. And I start to get a sense of their educational history, their goals, their motivations. And regardless of their role, I really stress the importance of commitment to the program. I go to the point where I overemphasize the need for them to be serious about being part of the program. And since I did that, because when I first got in, we were just looking to get people in. If they were interested, I was taking them. But I found that retention wasn't necessarily the greatest. So I started really emphasizing the importance of a commitment to the program. When I was on site and I did that, I did notice that fewer individuals would start the program and then not follow through. So in that initial session, when we go over the questions, we also developed, and this was all part of the behind the scenes kind of thing, we developed position descriptions for both the tutors and the learners. So we review that during that initial session, and whether they're tutors or they're learners, eventually they sign a position description agreeing to the fact that they're going to meet X, Y, and Z. This is what it means. This is what's outlined. And they sign on that. And then I keep a copy and give them a copy so that they have something to hold on to about it. Once we talk about those position descriptions, then the participant either goes off into the track for new learners, or they go into the track for tutor training. So the tutor training is at least 3 hours. It varies depending on the number I have, the availability of scheduling, that sort of thing. But typically we do a 3-hour tutor training. And prior to this position, I had actually run an organization that really focused on tutor training to adult ed programs in Pennsylvania. So I was able to take that background and adapt that tutor training once I got more familiar with the correctional facility and environment, and adapt that tutor training specific to our program. And we really focus, I shared the quote that we start with, we really focus a lot on the relationship piece of it. We, of course, go over adult learner characteristics and any number of things, but really focus on the relationship. And I'll just put this out there. If you're interested in any of the materials that we have developed in the development of this program, feel free to contact me and I'll confirm with everyone that we can actually share the materials. But we have a wealth of resources available for what we have done to help get this program up and running, because we knew that we really needed to have a solid foundation before I started things. We knew we needed to have position descriptions and have some clear criteria so that we could outline those to the participants, and so that we had structure to stick to. So tutors go one way, learners go the other. Learners do an intake and an orientation, and that involves the standard things you do with an adult learner for intake and orientation. And it includes the TABE testing. So keep in mind also, this is all when I'm on site. I haven't been on site since March 17th of 2020. And so things look very differently now. This is how things looked when they were at their prime. So they do the intake orientation, they do the TABE test, and then they start to get to the point where they get matched with a learner or a tutor, depending on what they are. I rarely turn away individuals who are interested in the program if they agree that they're ready to sign on and really commit to the program. There are times when I have turned away learners and had that in that one-on-one conversation with them, said, we've kind of agreed together that they might have too much going on. This isn't the right time for it. Because we ask them to commit to, again, when we were back on site, we ask them to commit to 3 hours a week, 2 1.5-hour blocks where they come to the education building, meet one-on-one with each other, and really focus on their education. So if they've got a crazy schedule and it just is going to be too much for them, or if they've got too much personal stuff going on, there's times when we agree that now might not be the time, but they can send me a request when they're interested. I heard a number of inmates say that this program is the chance that many of them have been waiting for a long time. Sometimes we're able to accept people into this program that can't access the educational classes for one reason or another. Sometimes they already have a GED, but they know that they need refreshers. So we can take people like that. And oftentimes we're really there and we are able to supplement the instruction of those who are in educational classes. So that ties into the collaboration with the instructors that are already there. So once a participant and I agree that she's ready to move forward, we do whichever track. And then sometimes the scheduling obviously can be an issue. What we had settled on, sorry about that. Before I left, we had gotten into a routine. So I was actually on site for almost a full year when before COVID hit. So what we did was originally, we thought that I would be on site 2 or 3 days a week. And we quickly found that that was not going to be enough. So we bumped it up to 4 days a week, and we have 4 1.5-hour blocks during Monday through Thursday when we can have participants sign up for one-on-one tutoring sessions. Like I said, participants have to agree to at least 2 tutoring sessions a week, so they get a minimum of 3 hours of instruction. And then the tutoring sessions only happen when I'm on site. So tutors always have my support as well as the support of other tutors in the room that are there at the same time. And the initial session, once we pair someone up, it's pretty standard. It's kind of like a continuation of the intake process. But I have a standard lesson plan that they do together, a standard set of handouts for them to complete. Sometimes they get it done in one session, sometimes it takes 2 sessions. But after that, the tutors then take over development of the lessons. And they have a lesson plan template that we use and that we review during our tutor training. And they know they've got all sorts of resources available to them. We have truly been blessed with numerous resources from a variety of sources. We had quite a few donated by teachers in the education building. We've gone through the process of getting materials sent into the prison. And when I was last on site, we actually had more resources than we had the space to keep them. We have been given the largest room in the education building, and there were times prior to COVID that we really were overflowing. The program became very successful. Something else that we build into the schedule is that tutors also participate in a monthly tutor meeting where we do professional development for them. And one thing that's really cool about this is the tutors have actually taken over presentation of new topics of professional development. So each month, what I would do is, so we'd set aside Fridays. Fridays, I'm not typically on site. So on a Friday, we would schedule 2 sessions. And tutors could tell me whether they could do the morning session or the evening session. And then one month I would give them a list of topics and ask for volunteers. And then the next month, each tutor, and they knew they all rotated through and took turns, would present for 5, 10, 15 minutes on whatever their topic was. So I was giving them the information, but it was a great opportunity for the tutors to start to practice some of their public speaking skills, which was a huge deal for quite a few of them. So that's when we're looking at scheduling. That was something else that we included in the schedule that's kind of beyond the Monday through Thursday for 1.5-hour blocks. And those blocks would be, between lunch and dinner. So there were 2 blocks there. And then we did 2 blocks in the evening. So from 5:30 to 7 and 7 to 8:30 were our evening blocks. So that's when we did all of our tutoring sessions prior to COVID. Now, things look entirely different since I have not been able to be on site. COVID had certainly put a damper on the program, as all of you know as well as I do. What I started doing once we realized this wasn't just I'll be back in 2 weeks kind of thing, was I initially started creating a weekly packet for all of the participants. I would email them to the principal, who would print them out and distribute them through inmate mail. And at that point in time, they were getting sent out to about 70 individuals. Now that's tutors and learners combined. At the beginning, I created one packet for everyone, but once it started to sink in that this wasn't a short-term thing, then we realized that I needed to make a variety of packets because I was really missing a lot of people. So I started creating 3 packets each week. One was for the tutors, one was for the lower level learners, and then one was for the more general level of learners. I did my best to make the packets inspirational and motivating and fun while still keeping their brains engaged and reminding them that the program was going to come back. So I would include vocabulary words, math problems, riddles, that kind of thing. The vocabulary words, just as kind of an aside, are something that we do on an ongoing basis and that we have continued since I've been off site. But every Monday, there would be 5 new vocabulary words that I would post on a piece of paper on the wall. And then they also always did exit tickets. And I would give them choices of what they could do for their exit ticket. And both tutors and learners did these at the end of each session. I had a stack of index cards. Written on the chalkboard was their exit ticket options. And in order to leave, they had to give me a completed card. So writing sentences using those vocabulary words was part of it. The vocabulary words is something we've maintained through all of the packets up to current day. So we're actually at, we just crossed over 400 vocabulary words. So some of them are very proud of the fact that they have vocabulary words and definitions clear back from when we first started this program. So the vocabulary words have been maintained. We went from the 3 packets, and then since at that point, none of their work was able to be counted for instructional hours, we wrote an instructional plan, and this was back in December, that was approved by the Pennsylvania Department of Education, the Division of Adult Education. And that has allowed us to provide instructional hours for learners who choose to agree to a set list of criteria. Now, again, a whole other list of criteria was developed when we introduced the option once we got the approved instructional plan. And what that looks like is just some of the criteria. They have to agree to an informal test, a pre-test. They agree to participating in tutoring sessions when we're back on site. They complete a weekly packet that is sent to them, and they watch a weekly video that's shown on the inmate channel. So that has somewhat limited some of the participants that are able to join. I've had some that would like to join but can't because they can't watch the video, but sometimes they can watch it in the common room. It hasn't been a huge problem because our numbers have significantly dropped now that we've gotten to this point where we're very focused. We're only working on language and reading skills, whereas when we were on site, we covered the whole gamut. We had learners who were working on phonics up through learners working to complete their final test in the GED. So we had a wide range of skills and abilities when we were on site. Now we've had to narrow it down and we're focusing on the language arts, the reading, and that's what the weekly sessions, the videos focus on, and that's what our packets focus on. We're able to use supplemental distance learning material that's approved for instruction. So that's how we're getting the instructional hours along with the videos that they watch. What I've started to do is I build questions into the packet that can only be answered if people have viewed the video. So in this new rendition of the program, we currently have 9 learners participating. We have a few tutors who are participating simply because they want to keep up their skills. And we have a few other learners that are in the process of joining. Obviously, it's not filling the gap that the one-on-one in-person sessions do, but we still have some that are able to make the program work for them. And we'll look at the numbers for the actual in-person sessions when I discuss successes in a few minutes. But let's start out and talk about a few of the challenges. Pre-COVID, post-COVID, that's the world now, right? So initially, for a very limited period of time, we had limited resources for the tutors to use during the tutoring session. We had difficulty getting materials on site, as many of you can understand, but we very quickly had numerous materials donated by the other teachers and by the library. So we soon had a lot of instructional books that we were able to begin using. One of the challenges for me in particular was because I had never consistently worked in a correctional facility before. I had a bit of a learning curve with language, with learning schedules, with any number of things, as you can imagine, for those of you who work in corrections and remember when you first got started. Like I said, I was originally only going to be there 2 or 3 days a week, but within the first few weeks, we increased that to 4 days a week, simply to meet the interest and the needs of the participants who were starting to show that they were interested. During any of the blocks, when participants were available and I was on site, we scheduled tutoring sessions. So my hours on site Monday through Thursday were 12:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. So we were able to fit in those 2 blocks in the afternoon and the 2 blocks in the evening. So that's basically all the free time that the inmates are able to be out and moving about. That left us with the challenge of when to schedule intakes, orientations, tutor trainings, tutor professional development meetings. So the way we worked with that was I would adjust my schedule, and some days I would go in the morning so that I could get some of that additional stuff done. And then I would also, that once a month, I would go in on Fridays to be able to do the tutor meetings, the tutor professional development meetings. And then I would fill in the rest of the day with some of these other things that there just wasn't enough time to do during the normal course of a week. So Fridays a day I'm typically was not on site, but we would make the schedule work so that we could get everything fit in. One of the other challenges, as you can well imagine for anyone who has done any pairing, was appropriately matching tutor and learners. The personalities, it was a bit of a challenge, particularly not knowing anything about the individuals prior to coming in and starting this program. But honestly, it wasn't as major of a problem as I anticipated. As anyone who makes these matches knows, there are many things to consider. And in prison, there's certainly extra considerations to be made. Sometimes I tread delicately, sometimes I changed pairs, but more often than not, we were really fortunate that the personalities of the pairs would really match up. And I think it helped that those initial interviews, I really clarified some expectations of whichever role someone was in. And they knew that everybody who was in the program was there for a genuine reason. It's not a program that people are mandated to join. So that was one of our challenges. Another challenge has been that I'm not allowed access to a computer or use of the internet while I'm there. This kind of increases the workload of some of the people who support me there. I will sometimes email materials from home and they'll print it out and put it in my mailbox. But honestly, this ended up not being so much of a challenge for me. I really enjoyed getting back to the basics, using the chalkboard, hanging handwritten signs on the walls. And I'll tell you what, that is one of the many things that I am really looking forward to getting back to and getting away from a computer day in and day out. That's kind of neither here nor there, but it was a bit of a challenge in some ways. As far as the challenge of space, we started out in smaller rooms, but it wasn't long till they gave us the largest room in the education building other than the library, because there just were times we didn't have enough space. I ended up breaking our tutor meetings into those 2 sessions on Fridays because we were too big for the room. And some of our evening tutoring sessions were completely booked and we didn't have an empty seat, which of course is going to lead us into some post-COVID challenges. Once I'm able to be back on site, we're going to have to cut down on the size of our sessions. who knows exactly what it's going to look like when it comes to scheduling challenges and me being back on site. So I'm going to move into some of our successes. I got on site the beginning of 2019. And if we're looking at just kind of hardcore numbers, by the 6-month period of July 1st to December 30th of 2019, we had 66 learners participating in the program. Of those 66, 54 were enrolled, which means they had at least 12 hours of one-on-one face-to-face instruction. During that period, we had 23 that were post-tested and 12 that had made gains. There was an average of 28.5 hours of instruction per learner, and we had approximately 6 who completed their GED. Now, keep in mind, that was not just from the tutoring sessions. That was working with those who were already in the classroom as well, so in the educational classes. So that wasn't just the tutoring program that accomplished the GED. It was that collaboration that has been so vital with this program. So then just before I left, so as of March 15th, 2020, we had 92 enrolled learners. Again, that means they had the 12 hours of instruction, and they had an average of 31 learners, or 31 hours, sorry. Since at that point, I wasn't able to get quite a few post-tests done. They were scheduled to happen the week that after I was not able to get back on site. We held steady at the 12 gains by the time I left in March. So those are some of the numbers that prove some of our successes. But the attitude change was huge. So I could personally see an attitude change from when an individual would walk in that very first one-on-one meeting to when they would be there and have met with their tutor or learner for a few sessions. But I also heard that there was kind of a whole attitude change about a new excitement about learning in the school building. We were able to supplement what the great stuff already happening, and we were able to help with those one-on-one needs that really can't be met any other way. And the growth, not only of the numbers and the size of the program, but the growth of the individuals participating. Tutors and learners alike will tell you that they benefited from the program and grew in ways that they didn't necessarily anticipate. And the environment, so I'm sure it's kind of difficult to see some of the words in this word cloud, but the words in this word cloud came about from an activity that we did during a tutor learner meeting before people would get started. And what I asked was for them to write down words that would prove what type of environment was important to them in order to feel safe. So this word cloud kind of pulls out some of those key words that they identified for a safe learning environment. And I always shared this. This is something else hanging on the walls. This is what's important for this program to be safe. Kinship, environment, trust, countless times trust came up, safe space, comfortable. So that's where that came about. And then we have, the gains that I mentioned. And those, we talked about the tangible gains, but the intangible gains were so apparent in so many ways. So I wanted to share this with you because this is something that one of the tutors in the program came up with. Her learner was getting ready to post-test, and her learner had some pretty serious test anxiety. And so during one of the tutor meetings, I had actually talked about the fact that the learners may not make gains on their post-test, but I also wanted the tutors to help the learners see how important the intangible gains were for them. So this tutor came up with this list, and you can see the NP, not proficient, PP partially. Those of you who are familiar with the diagnostics for the TABE, the not proficient partially, that's the same language that's used in that diagnostic. So she came up with this and said that this learner was proficient in her improvement in confidence, speaking up, her vocabulary words, all these different things. And this is something that the tutor gave to the learner when she also went over her post-test results, which she had improved, but she hadn't made a gain. And she had this special note here: not all progress and improvements can be seen and measured with a test. The important things, the intangibles, are the light you display to the world, and your light is ethereal. And what's, in addition to the sentiment to that, what's also really neat is she used some of our vocabulary words when she wrote this and included them in what she gave to the learner. So some of the other successes that I'll share, and I know that you won't be able to read these well, so I'm going to read a few of them off to you, but these are comments. I often would give them writing prompts. And this writing prompt was simply explain what being part of the tutoring program means to you. And this is from the learners. I'm only going to read one or two of these because I realize time is running out. The tutoring program means helping each other. We learn from each other. Also to have patience and to take our time. We talk a lot about both tutors and learners being learners, and that's why we use the term learner as opposed to student, because we keep everybody on a level playing field, and that has really helped as well. Here are some of the quotes from tutors in response to the same thing. Explain what being part of the tutoring program means to you. Let me just pick one or two of these. The aha moment, or one light bulb is so inspiring that I feel like my soul smiles. The tutoring environment is a wholesome, productive place, encouraging each other, not cussing, and trusting one another to keep confidentiality really helps me to grow and be mindful of my daily behavior. I'm learning so much about how to interact with others in a healthy way. And that's from a tutor. And that's from a tutor who I never would have thought had a concern about how to interact with others in a healthy way. But that's the type of environment that this program is really able to nurture. And so I wanted to quickly share that we recently had some exposure, some social media presence, which was pretty exciting, about the tutoring program. So there's a blog post, a tweet, and a Facebook post on the Department of Corrections for Pennsylvania's site that talks a little bit about the program. But what's also really cool is it has testimonials from a learner who started in this program back when the program first began and went through the program, had quite a few struggles, went through the program while she was also in classes, ended up getting her Commonwealth secondary diploma, and is now in college classes in Muncie. So you've got a testimonial from her tutor, and from the guidance counselor. So that it was pretty exciting to see the recognition that they all got for their part in the program. So while you are typing in, asking any questions, I'm going to move on to the next slide and share the contact information. And I'll pull up the Q&As and see what I'm able to fit in the next few minutes. So I'm going to start at the top. What is tutor training like? How does it, how long does it take? What types of topics does it cover? Is it in person and virtual? Great question, Marie. So the tutor training is typically 3 hours. We talk about adult learner characteristics. We talk about the importance of relationships. We talk about lesson planning. We talk about some instructional techniques, but we don't go into that in a lot of detail because the range of what the tutors might be working with is so varied. So I typically work more with that than one-on-one with the tutors than I do during the tutor training. How do you pick people to be peer coaches? So what I'm going to read that as, how do I pick people to be tutors? We have tutors, they have that list of criteria that they have to meet. So it includes their max and min date. It includes their education level, their TABE scores. They have to have gone so long without any, oh my gosh, the word just left my mind, without getting in trouble. And then they do that one-on-one interview with them. They give me a writing sample that tells me about what their interest in the program is. And then they go through the tutor training. And most of the time, tutors will successfully go through all of that. You know, if they make it through the interview and we agree that it's a good fit for them, most of the time they make it through the rest of that process. There are times that they don't. Sometimes they'll self-identify that they don't feel like they're appropriate, but more often than not, they do. And there have been some that I was initially very hesitant to bring in as tutors who have turned out, there's one woman who has turned out to be wonderful. She knows the materials like the back of her hand. She knows where to find exactly what she needs for the learner who has some special needs. So it's been a wonderful learning experience for me as well. Another question, does the learner intake include some sort of a survey or form? Oh, and I'm sorry, I missed part of the question, a previous question. All of the tutor trainings were done in person. Since I have not been on site, we aren't actually doing any one-on-one tutoring. Everything happens through the packets and the videos. So in-person tutor training only, no one-on-one tutoring occurring now that I'm not on site. So learner intake, some sort of form of a survey or form. Yes, we have a whole packet, including career interests, including the standard intake form, including learning styles inventory. Quite a variety of things are included in that learner intake. I would be interested to see what you've developed. Okay. Lori, if you can contact me, or I'll try to get your email jotted down, but feel free to just send me an email for more information about the program. How many learners and how many tutors? I think we covered that after you asked that question. At the present time, we have a new administration and just started ABE, ASE, ESL classes at the Lake County Jail using Zoom. Past pandemic, we would only allow those seeking their HSCs. The room being used only holds a max of 8. However, student inmates are transient. They either get out or transferred to DOC. What can we do to increase the classes and how do you follow up? Oh, goodness, I'm not so sure that I have a great answer to that because I have struggled with the same thing. I have struggled with increasing the number of participants now that we're not on site and having to do everything virtual. My follow-up, so if at the start of each of my webinars, I share my contact information and say if someone thinks they're interested in the program, because the video is broadcast on the inmate channel twice on Fridays. So anyone could potentially view it, not that many view it for their viewing pleasure, but they potentially can. So if someone new is interested, they can send me a request and I follow up, just written requests sent back and forth. So that's in my position, how I attempt to increase the classes and how we do follow up. There's also word of mouth that teachers and the principal, the guidance counselor, spread the word when they have someone come in that is interested in furthering their education. They tell them about the program as well. So I'm sorry, that probably wasn't a great answer, but from my limited perspective, that's what I can tell you. Have you been able to adapt to the virtual space? Has Muncie opened Zoom or other virtual learning tools like the APDS tablets? So for the tutoring program, all that we've got is the video that gets shown on the inmate channel. for my program, Zoom has and other learning tools haven't been available. I'm not exactly sure what else is happening with other programs that they have going on. Does your program utilize person-centered language? So we especially focus, and this is one of the things we talk about in the tutor training, is strength-based language that and focused on the individual learner. So I would say yes. I realize I'm almost out of time and there's quite a few questions. So let me just look. We do have some ESL students. I do have a list of our vocabulary words. I have office space in the facility in my classroom. And that was all part of how things were originally set up, that I would have classroom space right there. Let's see, program planning has been a collaborated effort, and probably don't have time to go into what that collaboration all looks like. Individualized making lesson plans and tutor training, that really helps. Since I'm there for all of the sessions, I have a firsthand view of and am able to provide any individualized input that that is needed. Okay, I apologize. I did not get to all of the questions. I'm guessing I'll have access to them afterwards and we'll have a way that I can answer. Thank you all so much for your time. Here you see a poll that is up here for you to answer. And thank you again. Have a great afternoon, everyone.
Kim, thank you so much. That was a great presentation. Really great work that you're doing. Thank you for sharing that with us. And thank you again, Maggie from ICEV, for sponsoring today's webinar. We couldn't put these on without partners like yours. So we're grateful. We're grateful for the work you're doing in the field of adult education and literacy as well. If we could just take a few more seconds, if everybody could fill out the poll. I'll close that up in a few seconds and then I'll close this out. I hope everybody enjoyed it. I hope everybody has a great day and a great rest of the week. Thank you so much.